Good evening, welcome to This Week in Turkey. Today's initial focus will be the debate on the inner dynamics of the ruling Justice and Development Party, AKP, and the new party allegations. And joining us from Oxford now is Suat Kınıklıoğlu from Oxford University's Middle East Center at St. Anthony's College. Mr. Kınıklıoğlu is also a former member of the Turkish Parliament. Good evening, Mr. Kınıklıoğlu. Good to have you again on This Week in Turkey.
Good evening, thanks. It's great to be here.
So, Mr. Kınıklıoğlu, following the electoral defeat in Istanbul on June 23rd, people familiar with AKP circles have been voicing numerous allegations that senior figures in the party, namely the former Deputy Prime Minister Ali Babacan and former Prime Minister Ahmet Davutoğlu, are planning to launch a rival party. And recent developments have been hinting that these allegations, in fact, might be true. What do you think?
Well, in fact, these preparations for a new political party have been preceding the elections, and there has been some preparation for some time. However, since March, the first round of the Istanbul elections, there has been an acceleration of efforts to found a new party. My understanding is now that it's become quite concrete, and perhaps in September or October the party is going to be launched. As you know, the leader of the party will be Mr. Babacan, supported by rather senior people of the Justice and Development Party, especially from the first and second term of the Justice and Development Party. But most importantly, former President Gül is throwing his support behind this new political party. So this is, in my view, an unprecedented scale and weight of politicians who appear to be openly challenging the leadership of President Erdogan.
Mr. Kınıklıoğlu, just like you've said, these new party allegations seem to be an open challenge to President Erdogan and his ruling AKP. And the president himself has made some pretty harsh remarks regarding the allegations. In fact, today, on his way out of the mosque after the Friday prayers, he said that those who have tried forming breakaway initiatives in the past have all become history. So what do you think is the reason for President Erdogan's sharp tone?
Well, he obviously is following this very closely for months, and he is quite aware of which personalities are involved in this new political party. I think he is signaling to his base that he is not very happy about this new development. However, when you look at the content of what he said, it's true actually. In the past, all of these new parties, including the Türkiye Partisi by Abdülatif Şener, and then some smaller attempts as well, have all been unsuccessful. But in my view, this new initiative is very much different, and also the context, obviously. The political context in the post-23 June environment is very much different, especially when in view of the rerun and the large margin that emerged after the first election on the 31st of March. So I think this is a very new situation, and from President Erdogan's statement today, it appears he's not very happy about it.
And would you say the AKP is disintegrating?
I think it's too early to tell. One needs to see which personalities are involved in the official cadre that will be the senior leadership of this new political party. In my view, what will matter also that that these people will also only come from Justice and Development Party backgrounds, but it needs to be from a large, much more embracing, much more centrist figures from social democratic or liberal backgrounds we don't know who else is involved in. We hear of some names from the Justice and Development Party leadership, old leadership, but we do not know what kind of new personalities will be involved. But there's no doubt this is probably the most credible attempt to form an alternative to the Justice and Development Party, because we have not seen in the last 17 years, 18 years from a party perspective, such a credible lineup of people who obviously are prepared to openly challenge the Justice and Development Party. So it remains to be seen, but there's no doubt the media interest in itself is indicative that this is a very serious initiative.
Another hot topic in Turkey's agenda this week, Mr. Kınıklıoğlu, has been debates on whether the new presidential system is working or not. And this happened following the June 23rd electoral defeat of the ruling AKP in Istanbul. So why do you think this has become an issue now?
Well, I think the presidential system that's been introduced into Turkey, which is a very unique system that we have, is not working. And I think the reason why it became again a hot issue after the election is many people in political circles believe that the fundamental problem with both the economy and the overall governance of Turkey is this strange system that is called the presidential system in Turkey. I think those who are intimately involved with politics in Turkey understand that A, this system has not proven to be effective, and B, is far from answering many of the issues that are plaguing our country, including an economic crisis, the dismal situation of rule of law, and of course the problems we're encountering in foreign policy. So too much concentration in one man's hand is proving to be a huge liability for the Turkish political system.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of foreign policy, Mr. Kınıklıoğlu, we'll shift our focus now to the G20 summit in Japan and the meeting that took place between President Erdogan and US President Donald Trump. And we'll continue our conversation with you after we watch our next news video.
Okay.
Speaking to the state television TRT on Thursday, Foreign Minister Mevlut Çavuşoğlu said Trump himself said it in the meeting. He said, "How could there be such a thing?" He said, "This is unacceptable." In the meeting, Trump said, "We are working on this," according to Çavuşoğlu. Trump openly expressed his intention, but there is no need to be naive and optimistic in hopes that everything will happen just as Trump says, the minister said. "We are cautious," Çavuşoğlu said, noting that Trump's remarks and acknowledgement of the situation was crucial for resolving the disagreement. The minister noted that the US rhetoric on Turkey's purchase of the Russian-made S-400 defense systems has softened after Trump's remarks at the press conference at the G20 summit in Osaka. The different voices have started to diminish, Çavuşoğlu said. Trump's statement seems to have had an impact on Congress as well. "We want to solve the issue through diplomatic means," he said, adding that the efforts for solving the S-400 crisis now continues in a calmer environment. He added that the S-400 is a defense system, not an attack system. It'll be used where there is an emergency. Why would the S-400 be activated as it just stands there? It costs a lot, he stated. Tensions between the United States and Turkey have escalated in recent months over the Russian S-400 purchase, which Washington said will jeopardize Turkey's role in the F-35 fighter jet program and could trigger sanctions.
Welcome back, Mr. Kınıklıoğlu. So, as we've just heard, a meeting has taken place between President Erdogan and US President Trump along the sidelines of the G20 summit in Osaka, Japan this week. But this meeting seems to have confused most analysts regarding Washington's stance on Turkey's future in the F-35 fighter jet program. And what do you think was the outcome of this meeting?
Well, the meeting seems to have lessened and decreased the immediate tension, especially the pressure on the economy and the Turkish lira. However, and also I think it would be fair to say that President Trump does not seem to be eager at this time to impose sanctions on Turkey immediately. However, the issue, both the F-400 issue and also the F-35 issue, are interlinked and have many more stakeholders other than just President Trump. So it was a strange interlude to the buildup of tension and pressure on Turkey regarding the delivery of the S-400s and potential repercussions from Washington. But the meeting has lessened somewhat that tension. However, I think it's too early to say that the crisis has been overcome. We will need to see how Congress will respond, and if the S-400s will be delivered and stationed in Turkey, how that will work, will they be activated, how that will be coordinated with the United States, and whether the Pentagon, the Congress, State Department, and all the other stakeholders in this crisis will be able to coordinate and come to a common position. I think it's going to be extremely difficult, especially in view of the conflicting statements we hear from the Turkish side. However, I don't think it's also totally out of, it is also possible that somehow the S-400s will be delivered and some sort of arrangement that would satisfy the current administration in Washington is possible. But to be honest, like many analysts, many of us are in the dark about it, and we don't know what that would look like, what such an arrangement would look like. But you could say that the United States is trying hard not to lose Turkey on this one.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kınıklıoğlu, for joining us today one more time.
Thank you.
This week, we were joined by Suat Kınıklıoğlu, a former member of the Turkish parliament, and he commented on the new party allegations, as well as the Trump-Erdogan summit in the G20, the Erdogan-Trump meeting in the G20 summit in Japan. And now we'll continue with our next news video. The Turkish Foreign Ministry said on Monday that the 6 Turkish citizens detained in Libya by forces loyal to Commander Khalifa Haftar have been released. The ministry had warned the day before that the militia would become a legitimate target unless the Turkish citizens were released immediately.
Foreign Ministry spokesman Hami Aksoy said those released wanted to keep working rather than return to Turkey. On Sunday, the Turkish Foreign Ministry demanded that Haftar's militia, which calls itself the Libyan National Army, immediately release the 6 Turkish citizens they had detained in Libya, or otherwise face becoming a legitimate target of the Turkish military. The price of hostile attitudes or attacks will be heavy. They will be responded to with the most efficient and hard manner, Hulusi Akar told Anadolu Agency. The Turkish embassy in Tripoli advised its citizens through its website on June 30th to avoid any steps that will jeopardize their security and safety in the territory under control of the illegal militia loyal to Haftar. Meanwhile, the forces loyal to Haftar said they have destroyed a Turkish drone parked at Tripoli's only working airport on Sunday and declared a general mobilization as tensions between Ankara and the Eastern administration mounted. Haftar's administration had cut all ties with Turkey on June 28th, banning its flights and ships from eastern Libya. Turkey supports the internationally recognized government in Tripoli. Haftar's Libyan National Army launched a campaign on April 4th to try and seize the Libyan capital, but has failed to take Tripoli in 3 months of fighting. Last week, the Haftar forces lost their main forward base in Garyan, which was taken back by Tripoli forces.
Foreign Minister Mevlut Çavuşoğlu has stated that all steps taken by Turkey in the Eastern Mediterranean are in compliance with international law and stressed that Turkey had notified the United Nations and the European Union about its activities in the region.
In a live interview with the state broadcaster TRT on Thursday, Foreign Minister Mevlut Çavuşoğlu referred to statements by the Greek Cypriot administration and said that the threats of arrest warrants for the Turkish drilling ship Fatih's crew were meaningless for Turkey. Çavuşoğlu also highlighted that Turkey has legitimate rights and vital interests in the Eastern Mediterranean, and that it has been fully exercising its sovereign rights over its continental shelf in accordance with international law. Turkey's first drill ship, the Fatih, launched offshore operations on May 3rd this year in an area located 75 kilometers off the western coast of Cyprus. The Fatih is said to be joined by its twin vessel, Yavuz, which was sent to the eastern Mediterranean on June 20th to begin drilling in the region soon.
Foreign Minister Mevlut Çavuşoğlu protested on Thursday, Washington Post, for publishing an article by Cemil Bayık, one of the leaders of the PKK, which is listed as a terrorist organization by Turkey, the US, and the EU.
In an interview, Foreign Minister Mevlut Çavuşoğlu stated that the article did not fall under freedom of press and expression. A head terrorist of the PKK, listed as a terrorist organization by many countries, including the US, and which has brutally massacred tens of thousands of innocent people, has brazenly engaged in terrorist propaganda by using the Washington Post, the Turkish Foreign Ministry also said in a statement. The publication has violated the principle of preventing the promotion of terrorism, which is the most important commitment of the international community in the fight against terrorism, the statement said. The statement also stressed that there should be no discrimination between terrorist organizations in the fight against terror. It stated that this approach is a tool for the PKK's terrorist propaganda and is incompatible with the sensitivity displayed towards the Islamic State, Al-Qaeda, and other terrorist organizations. This approach is a new and serious example of hypocrisy in the fight against terrorism, the statement added. The Washington Post provided space for a terrorist who is a member of a group listed as a terrorist organization by the US and European Union, openly produces terrorist propaganda, and violates US laws, Turkish presidential spokesman İbrahim Kalın also said in a written statement. The Washington Post published Cemil Bayık's article on Wednesday with the title, "Now is the moment for peace between Kurds and the Turkish state. Let's not waste it." In the article, Bayık was represented as one of the 5 founders of the PKK.
The Turkish Statistical Institute announced on Monday that consumer prices in Turkey rose 15.7% on an annual basis in June, a sharp drop in inflation rates from May.
The annual inflation rate last month fell from 18.7% in May, according to the Turkish Statistical Institute TürkSat. The data said June's inflation was the lowest seen in Turkey since June of last year, when it was 15.4%. The highest price rise last month was seen in miscellaneous goods and services, up 26.8% year-on-year. The TürkStat data show that, on a monthly basis, consumer prices rose 0.03% in June. The 12-month average hike in consumer prices was 19.9%. The highest monthly increase was 2.65% in hotels, cafes, and restaurants, TürkStat said. That sector was followed by miscellaneous goods and services with 1.9%, education with 1.5%, and health and furnishing and household equipment with 0.6% during the same period. Food prices fell by 1.6% in June from the previous month, while the decline in clothing prices was 1.5% on a monthly basis. According to an inflation report by Turkey's central bank released in April, year-end annual inflation is expected to hit 14.6% in 2019.
Renowned Turkish poet Küçük İskender died in Istanbul at the age of 55 on Tuesday.
Küçük İskender, a renowned Turkish poet known for his sharp tongue, died at the age of 55 on Tuesday. Küçük İskender was diagnosed with cancer in June 2018 and had been under treatment in the intensive care unit at the Paşabahçe State Hospital in Istanbul. Born in 1964 in Istanbul, Küçük İskender's love and interest for literature began as a child. He dropped out of Cerrahpaşa Faculty of Medicine, explaining that he never actually wanted to have a profession. "I haven't wanted to have a profession since I was a kid. My dream was cinema, theater, and poetry. I still can't make big money because I don't have a job," the poet had once said in an interview. Küçük İskender was widely seen as a true free spirit that was often unhesitant to express his thoughts and desires explicitly. Küçük İskender was put to rest on Wednesday in Istanbul's Zincirlikuyu Cemetery following a ceremony at Kabataş High School.
That's all from This Week in Turkey. Thanks for tuning in and hope to see you again next Friday at 9 p.m. Goodbye.